with QuickBooks Pro.
Okay, bring on the free trial.
Call for your free trial. You've got nothing to lose.
Call 1-800-437-4377.
Frequent heartburn. Is it worse at night, especially after dinner?
Mm-hmm.
Have you treated it, even changed your diet, but still suffered 2 or more days a week?
Mm-hmm.
Has your heartburn been a persistent problem for you?
Mm-hmm.
Your heartburn may be due to a potentially serious condition called acid reflux disease. Ask your doctor about Prilosec. For many people, 1 capsule daily provides 24-hour complete heartburn relief. Ask your doctor about Prilosec and if it's right for you. The most common side effects are headache, diarrhea, and abdominal pain. Want 24-hour heartburn relief with 1 daily dose? Ask your doctor about the 24-hour complete heartburn relief that's possible with Prilosec.
The conflict in Kosovo. Stay with the Fox News Channel for continuing coverage. Sunday, the situation in Kosovo. Politics, destruction, deception. As it rages on, what aren't we hearing about? Gotta know? Catch Drudge. Powerful primetime Sunday, only on the Fox News Channel.
Imagine what it is like being a Kosovar Albanian fleeing the horrors in your own country for the safety of another. And then further imagine that you're almost home free, but you're being stopped just short. Here's Peter Sharp.
The explosion happened just before 3 in the morning. The white car, with a couple and their 3 children on board, attempted to drive round the queue of tractors and struck the landmine. 2 of the children were brought out alive, but died minutes later on this side of the border. Mustafa Varashi was on the tractor in front.
His brother's family is already all killed. There are 3 bodies more left there, and his mother is killed too, and just 1 brother saved from him, and he alone.
Security officials have been concerned this could happen when the Serbs began mining the border 3 days ago.
Well, there are mines on the road, and it's grand in daylight, you can see the mines, but maybe at night time some poor unfortunate just went the wrong way and drove over the mine.
And the people behind, stacked up behind, how many?
Yeah,
how many
a considerable long line of refugees who are just trying to get across, but well, we have to see what the Serbian authorities do. Maybe they'll assist in opening the road again, who knows.
And in this weather, it's not going to be good for them.
It just makes the misery all the worse, yes, for sure.
Peter Sharp, Sky News, on the Kosovo-Albanian border.
We mentioned at the top of the hour that Yugoslavia today broke off diplomatic relations with Albania over the crisis in Kosovo, saying that Albania is on NATO's side. This comes as Albania struggles to deal with an overload of refugees fleeing Kosovo. Joining us in New York is Zudi Karajosi. He's the spokesman for the Pan-Albanian Federation of America. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
I want to mention to our audience that the Pan-Albanian Federation of America is the oldest Albanian organization in the world, correct?
That is correct.
Started in 1912, and it's a unifying body in the Albanian world and the Albanian American community.
That is correct.
Okay, so tell us about this break-off of diplomatic ties. How important is that?
The situation in Albania presently, Yugoslavia and Albania have had relations for, obviously, throughout this century, the Albanian people. But at this time, with Milosevic not being able to have the kind of influence that he's had over the Albanian government, which he has over the last couple of years, he sees now that the division of the lines have been made. He can't get any more effective results in Albania to be able to serve his purpose. So now he's broken off relations.
Is there a recruitment drive going on for the KLA of young men who want to fight on NATO's side going on in Albania?
All over the world, actually, throughout the world, Europe, United States, Albania, the entire region. There are 10 to 15 million Albanians throughout the world.
And this break-off of diplomatic ties, is that something that will affect the relationship between those 2 countries into the next century?
As long as Milosevic is in power, it'll cause that damage. And if the justice isn't brought to the region, yes, then we're going to have a harboring of bad feelings between both nations.
Okay. So do the Albanians fear that the refugees coming over the border are going to upset the ethnic balance there, as the Macedonians feel about the many thousands of refugees who have come across their border?
It's a problem. Albania is it's the poorest country in Europe. It's a very taxing situation for the people in Albania. They need to allow the people, the Kosovo Albanians, to go back to Kosovo. The infrastructure in Albania just cannot sustain the impact of all these refugees. It just isn't, it's not capable of doing so.
So when we hear of ethnic Albanians going into Albania, it sounds like there would be no problem there ethnically, or from any kind of, the standpoint of a flood of refugees, that they would be absolutely sympathetic to their plight. Maybe they are, but you're saying it's more sensitive than that.
They are sensitive to the plight. The Albanians have, my own cousins, to give an example, have taken in Kosovars from southern Albania to Tirana. All the Albanians, by nature, they're very hospitable people. Their customs are you help and you protect people when they're in need. That's been throughout history. They've done it during the Holocaust, World War II. There were more Albanians, more Jews that were saved in Albania than the only country, I should say, in Europe that had more Jews after World War II than before, and not one Jew perished under Albanian protection.
And one last question. How do the Albanians in America today feel about the NATO airstrikes?
They're in total support of the NATO airstrikes. They feel that we need to bring ground forces into the region. We need to protect the Kosovars. There's 800,000 Kosovo Albanians are in Kosovo. They're starving to death, and they're plagued by disease. We need to protect those people and take care of business.
Okay. Zudi Karajosia, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
When we come back, several sources say NATO is planning for an invasion of Kosovo using ground troops, despite the official denials. We are going to check in at the Pentagon for the very latest on that and much more, so stay with us. Fox News Channel's fair and balanced coverage of the conflict in Kosovo continues right after this break.
This program is brought to you by new Centrum Herbals. 6 in all, naturally more complete.
One word convinced me an herbal could help maintain my cholesterol health. Centrum.
One word told me there's an advance in herbals for energy.
For my prostate, I'm taking the only herbal backed by Centrum Science.
Introducing Centrum Herbals. Some other brands can be missing natural ingredients because herbals can vary from plant to plant, dose to dose. Only Centrum uses pharma print to guarantee a more complete herbal every time.
One word can help make a difference in your health.
6 individual Centrum Herbals, naturally more complete.
It's here. The award-winning 215 horsepower power plant. The more powerful, intrigue. Intrigue by Oldsmobile. Start to command performance. Start something.
The creamy taste of butter with half the fat and calories. It's sheer bliss. Brummel and Brown, the only spread blended with the goodness of yogurt. Must be Brummel and Brown.
Here's your Pop-Tart, Anthony. Thanks, Mom.
Here comes Pillsbury Toaster Strudel. They taste better than Pop-Tarts. With our do-it-yourself icing, real juicy fruit filling, and flaky pastry, what would you do to get one? Pillsbury Toaster Strudel. Something better just popped up.
You know how to put money into your IRA, but do you know how to take it out? When you're 45, 60, even when you're 80? Without the right strategies, thousands, even tens of thousands of your retirement dollars could end up going to the government. That's why Solomon Smith Barney created this retirement distribution kit. It's yours free when you call 1-800-EARNS-IT, extension 5700. In it, you'll find the best ways to take money out of your IRA at any age, with a minimum of taxes and penalties. You'll learn the differences between Roth and traditional IRAs And find ways to keep more of your other retirement dollars, too, like special tax treatments for some of the investments in your 401k. Whether you're 2 years or 2 decades from retirement, you need strategies for keeping more of your money. And you need them today. Protect your retirement, starting now. Call 1-800-EARNS-IT, extension 5700. Let's get to work. Solomon Smith Barney.
Hello, everybody. I'm Kathy Wolf in New York, and this is a Crisis in Kosovo update. NATO says it has aerial pictures of 43 grave sites. The graves are for ethnic Albanians, and the refugees say the Serbs are forcing prisoner chain gangs to dig those graves. NATO warplanes took advantage of better weather conditions, hitting 13 armored vehicles and 2 planes on the ground. NATO says Yugoslavia's air defense system and its ability to refine oil are now crippled. Slobodan Milosevic's government has severed ties with Albania. Yugoslavia charges that its neighbor supports the NATO airstrikes and has fired shots across the border. Welcome back, everybody. Will NATO's sustained air campaign actually accomplish its goals? And what about the talk of ground troops? Joining us now live from the Pentagon with another update is Fox News senior correspondent Rita Cosby. Hi, Rita.
Hi, Kathy. Well, a Pentagon source tells me that both he and many other senior military officials here at the Pentagon believe that ground troops will be in place in Kosovo in a matter of weeks, possibly as early as the end of May, if not possibly the beginning of June. He is saying that most military officials believe here in the Pentagon that the objectives that the Clinton administration has set forth cannot be achieved without ground forces. This is something that Fox News reported earlier last week. Meantime, the Guardian Observer newspaper of London is reporting that American forces are already training in a reconstruction of a Balkan village in the Colorado Rockies. The Pentagon says American troops are training at Fort Carson, Colorado, but are training to replace troops in Bosnia, and right now there are no plans to switch them. But Pentagon sources say that it is possible that other troops are secretly being trained in Colorado, or more likely elsewhere. This morning on Fox News Sunday, NATO Secretary General said ground troops are not an option right now.
We're going to continue with the same strategy, the strategy of the air campaign. We're going to see it through, and troops will be deployed, as has been agreed already, after a ceasefire is achieved. At this point, the alliance has no plans to go into an invasion, as you put it, to Yugoslavia.
Also on Fox News Sunday, Yugoslavia's deputy prime minister, who said that if ground troops entered Kosovo, the Serbs will fight to the bitter end.
It would be incredible bloodshed. All Serbs would fight to defend Kosovo. Kosovo is our territory. Kosovo is the capital of our state, historical capital of our state, our nation, our Christian religion, our national pride.
Airstrikes continue to pound Serb military targets. NATO says in the last day or so, more than 500 missions have been flown, hitting such targets as armored tanks and an oil refinery in Novi Sad, Yugoslavia's second largest city. The smoke from the now blazing refinery is so thick that Serb TV reports that people walking down city streets are forced to breathe through handkerchiefs. NATO is also saying that it expects more U.S. warplanes to hit the region soon, including those Apache helicopters that we've been talking about. But the Pentagon is now saying because the weather in the region is so miserable, particularly in Albania, where the Apaches would be based, that they may now fly there in another day. They were expected to arrive there this afternoon, and they're saying now because the weather is so horrible, heavy rain, heavy fog, they may now arrive there tomorrow. Live at the Pentagon, Rita Cosby. Back to you, Kathy.
Okay, Rita, thank you so much. From the Pentagon now to the refugees. Our next guests are among the lucky few. They not only escaped Kosovo, but they also escaped the refugee camps. Joining us in Washington, D.C. is Kosovar deportee Dr. Vjosa de Bruna, a pediatrician and trauma care specialist. Dr. de Bruna founded and directs the Center for Protection of Women and Children. That's a community clinic in Pristina. Also joining us now from Washington is Afrodita Kelmendi. She's the director of Radio TV 21 in Pristina. The station is only one of 3 independent electronic media outlets in Kosovo, all of which have now been silenced. Welcome to both of you. We understand that you have both testified in front of Congress and also met with Hillary Clinton in Washington.
Yes.
Mrs. Clinton now may go to Albania. It's just crossing the wires now. What did she want to know, and what did you tell her about your experiences?
We are honored to have our third meeting with Mrs. Hillary Rodham Clinton, and we are just expressing our concern and our suffering for all those Kosovars that were made to flee Kosovo on gunpoint. And we're just explaining what's happened to us, what's happened to thousands and thousands and thousands other Kosovars that were made to leave Kosovo, and we are discussing mostly humanitarian aspects of Kosovo exodus.
Dr. De Bruna, most of the information that we are getting about the Serb atrocities are coming from people like yourselves. So what can you tell us about what is happening in Kosovo?
In Kosovo, it's happening what was happening for now almost 10 years, and in worst cases, what was happening since February 1998, when the armed conflict started, because until February 1998, Kosovars were developing only strategies of conflict, peaceful conflict resolution through civil disobedience and non-cooperation. But after February, after the first massacres happened in Kosovo, first mass murdering of civilian population, among them women and children, then the options were narrowed and the armed conflict started. So they are burning villages, killing civilians, killing children, killing women, separating women from their husbands and sons, and in the end, plundering houses, putting on fire, stealing everything what people had in possession, and then deporting them out of the country through three exits, one through Montenegro, another one through Albania, and the third one through Macedonia.
It's not just a matter of forcing people from their homes, and even as bad as burning villages is concerned, it's not just that. It is the torture and the killing of civilians. And it is as bad as even thievery. They're stealing, they're looting, and then they're forcing people out.
Yes.
Okay. Kelmendi, Ms. Kelmendi, I want to talk to you as well. What was your experience in leaving Kosovo? How did you get out, and what happened to you?
How I get out? 5 days I was hiding myself and my family in several flats in Pristina, and at 5th days after the NATO airstrikes, the situation in Pristina was very very worse. And in that day, I went in the direction of my radio station, and I saw how a bunch of police are breaking the door of radio station, and they went in. So in that moment, I knew that I have to go in a flat where we was hiding ourselves, and to go in some other place. And I get in my car, I drive to the place where my family was. I took them in my car, and we wanted to go in other flats to join some other friends.
Did your entire family get out safely? You didn't lose anyone, did you?
Yes, no, my entire family is safe.
All right, and when you got actually to a refugee camp, did you not?
No, I was one of the luckiest, which for 3 days waiting in a border without food, only with water, and then we left our car. We went in direction of the border walking, and we have waited only 7 hours in no man's land, and then we was very lucky that we passed the border.
It must have been.
But my friends for 5 and 7 days waited there.
It must have been terrifying. I'm sure you've lost friends along the way, and we send our best regards to you and your families, both of you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
When we come back, NATO bombs slammed into Belgrade again overnight. We are going to check in with some experts and see whether the bombing campaign is really working. And we will go live to Macedonia, where our own Rick Leventhal will update us on the river of refugees. Stay with us, everybody.
Craftsman has come up with another smart solution that simplifies projects and saves you time.
the Craftsman Speedlock Drill and Driver System, exclusively from Sears. This patented Speedlock Quick Connector is the heart of the system. It fits any drill and works with keyed or keyless chucks. The Speedlock's simple click-in, click-out action makes changing bits so easy you can do it with one hand without rechucking. With the collar snapped back, the bit is securely locked, and you're ready to drill with any of the 7 hex shank drill bits that are included with the system. The Craftsman Speedlock system also includes this magnetic screw guide. It makes driving screws easier, faster, and safer. And you'll really love the screw guide sleeve. It acts as a stabilizer and guide, so you don't have to use your fingers to hold screws while you drive them, and they go in straight every time. The screw guide comes with 7 different screwdriver bits, so you can work with Phillips, slotted, or square head screws. At just $19.99, the Craftsman Speedlock system is essential for anyone who owns a drill. Choosing the right tool can make any job go more smoothly. And with the Craftsman Speedlock system, drilling and driving is faster, safer, and easier. Whether you're working around the house, remodeling, or building crafts, Speedlock saves time and energy. The exclusive, innovative design turns any drill into an efficient tool you can count on for high-quality performance every time. The Craftsman Speedlock system makes work easier, and with its revolutionary quick-change design, it's the fast, convenient way to tackle all types of drilling and driving projects. It's just one more example of how Craftsman makes anything possible. And because it's from Sears, your satisfaction is guaranteed or your money back.
Call now to order your 16-piece Speedlock system for only $19.99 plus shipping and handling. You'll receive the quick connector, screw guide, 7 Speedlock drill bits, 7 screwdriver bits, and a convenient storage case. Use your Sears card or other credit card and call 1-800-235-7007. That's 1-800-235-7007. Call right now.
Sunday, the crisis in Kosovo, center stage. How has the media covered events? Too far left, too far right, or have they struck a balance? Covering Kosovo on a special 1-hour edition of Fox News Watch. Powerful primetime Sunday, only on the Fox News Channel. A shocking look at the president with author Michael Isikoff tonight on This Evening with Judith Regan.
Now, I'm Carol Iavana. Extreme heat, high winds, and bone-dry landscape. The stage is set for another horrible fire season in Florida. Wildfires have now burned through 70,000 acres in the Everglades and shut down traffic on interstate highways. To make the situation worse, it's not expected to rain for another 6 days. So folks in Palm Beach are being warned brush fires could reach them. 43 homes were destroyed yesterday in Port St. Lucie alone. We'll soon know more about how China may have stolen our nuclear secrets. The House panel is getting ready to go public with its report. China denies the charges, but one of the ranking members on the panel, Washington Congressman Norman Dix, leaked some of the details on Fox News Sunday.
We certainly made recommendations to the administration about strengthening counterintelligence at our labs. That has to be done. I served on the Intelligence Committee, and I can tell you this is one of the most serious failures that I can remember.
The other ranking member on the panel, California Congressman Christopher Cox, said the government still has not plugged the leaks in our nuclear labs. He says the barn door is still open. After years of protest, the first nuclear waste dump in the U.S. is open, and as you can imagine, lots of folks aren't happy about it. They say the waste isolation pilot plant is dangerous, and they certainly don't want it in their backyard. But Energy Secretary Bill Richardson insists the dump is a safe facility and that there's no reason to be afraid. In sports, it's the year of the quarterback. 3 quarterbacks were chosen as the top 3 picks in the National Football League draft. Kentucky's Tim Couch got the first call. He went to the expansion Cleveland Browns. Those are your headlines at this hour. I'll have another update for you at the bottom of the hour. Time now to return to our wall-to-wall coverage, live coverage on the conflict in Kosovo. Hello, everyone. I'm Kathy Wolf in New York. The mass exodus of ethnic Albanian refugees out of Kosovo continues today in the 26th day of the NATO air campaign against Yugoslavian President Slobodan Milosevic. Our Rick Leventhal joins us now from Skopje, Macedonia, with details. Hi, Rick.
Hi, Kathy. They're dealing with some major issues at the camps now, and the number one primary concern is overcrowding. 4 of the 7 camps are now over capacity, and the Macedonian government has said no to building more camps. They did give the okay to expand some of the existing camps, but that has angered some area farmers who apparently don't want to give up their land and apparently don't want ethnic Albanians living on their property. The farmers gathered outside the gates of the Brozda camp yesterday to protest the expansion and threatened physical violence against the refugees, which is, as you can imagine, also increasing tensions inside the camps, where they are dealing with bad weather again. They have high winds today, they had rain yesterday, chilly temperatures, some people sleeping outside. There are now long lines for food and health care and telephones. And there are also fresh reports of Macedonian guards beating refugees. NATO troops still on site say they have intervened in some incidents, but they can't be everywhere all the time. And the other major problem now is that these safe haven flights to other countries have slowed down just as the need to move more people out has increased. Many refugees apparently are now more willing to leave than they were before, simply to find a better place to stay. They'll go almost anywhere they can, they say, just to get out of here. But as I mentioned, these flights have now slowed down, and there's some real problems in getting people to the airports and getting them on planes and getting them out of here, and more refugees continue to cross the border here every single day. Reporting live in Skopje, Macedonia, Rick Leventhal, Fox News. Kathy?
Rick, what is the greatest source of anxiety on the part of the people of Macedonia about these refugees?
Well, there's been a long-standing dislike between Macedonians and the Albanians. In fact, the Macedonian president went on record as saying that the Albanians belonged in Albania. So there's that going on. There's also very high unemployment here and a fragile economy that can't really support all of these people coming in. And you've got now an estimated at least 80,000 ethnic Albanians who have moved in with other families in Macedonia.
It sounds like the situation is actually somewhat prone to violence at this point. Is there a lot of concern about that?
That is a major concern here, Kathy. They're small cities now. That camp at Brozda estimates anywhere from 22,000 to as many as 30,000 people there. It's a small city, and people have said you're going to have crime. There could be serious crime here, and tensions are rising. The fact that people are protesting outside the gates doesn't help, but inside the camp you have people who are now squatting in their tents. They don't want to give up space to newcomers who are coming in, and you have, as I mentioned, the long lines for food and other things. This is only serving to increase tension, and now with bad weather, with rain, creating mud, and the rest of it, it's not a good situation, and it is getting worse, Kathy.
Okay, Rick Leventhal, thank you so much for the update. When we come back, NATO still insists that its airstrikes are enough to beat Slobodan Milosevic. But will the bombs alone get the job done? We'll talk about that right after this break.
Looks like another scorcher. Hey, Mrs. Johnson.
You'd be surprised how much the right air conditioner can save on your monthly cooling costs. American Standard, cutting the cost to cool. Learn how to choose the air conditioning and heating system that's right for your home. Call 1-800-270-4528 for your free At Home with Comfort video.
Every day you give from your heart. So every day, keep your heart healthy by lowering cholesterol. Oatmeal Crisp has soluble fiber that may help lower your cholesterol, plus delicious clusters of oats, sweet raisins, and brown sugar. Your heart does so much for you. Make Oatmeal Crisp a part of your heart-healthy diet and return the favor. Oatmeal Crisp. It's your heart's desire.
Announcing a new way to see, near and far, the way nature intended. The creator of AccuView, the most prescribed contact lens, is introducing the revolutionary AccuView bifocal contact lens, the first with pupil-intelligent design, near and far. Get out of wearing glasses and get into life, both near and far. New AccuView bifocal. It's how you see things. Visit your eye care professional or call us for more information.
ready. It's Man Cow, beginning Monday on Fox and Friends. Sunday, the field for the 2000 presidential race is packed. Is anyone set to break away? And our policy in Kosovo. Will Congress stand behind the president? Get the inside buzz with the Beltway Boys. Powerful prime time Sunday, only on the Fox News Channel.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kathy Wolf in New York. We are continuing our coverage of the crisis in Kosovo. NATO today said its air attacks have broken the back of Yugoslavia's air defense system and oil refineries. But is it too little too late? Joining us from Michigan is Ray Tanter, a professor of political science and research associate at the Middle East Center at the University of Michigan. And from Philadelphia, Michael Simmons, director of European programs for the American Friends Service Committee. The committee has been involved in relief efforts in the Balkans for the past 6 years. Welcome to both of you. Let's start with Ray Tanter. You authored a book called Balancing the Balkans. Is it possible to balance the interests of the Balkans without coming to blows, without using force?
Well, Kathy, in balancing the Balkans as well as in rogue regimes, one of the first things that we do is to point out that Milosevic is a rogue leader, one of the worst at the end of the 20th century, and at issue is whether this rogue leader will be the lead rogue in the 21st century. In that respect, I think you need a combination of an air-land battle rather than air campaign alone. 6,000 sorties, about 300 a day, have only totaled about 1/7 of the sorties used to oust Saddam Hussein's regime from Kuwait. So you'll need to step up the sortie rate, but you also need some kind of ground combat force in order to bring the ethnic Albanians back home, Kathy.
You know, Ray, some are saying just give it some time. You know, we had 40 days of airstrikes in the Gulf War before we went in with ground troops, and this is a more complex situation. Why don't we just wait, see what happens with this bomb campaign, see if we can get him to surrender or at least come to the table, and give it a little more time?
Kathy, if the University of Michigan football coach told the opposing coach, we're only going to use our quarterback, we're not going to use any running backs, then the other coach would blitz each time, and the air war wouldn't work. So one of the things you want to do is create uncertainty in the minds of the other side as to what you're going to do, so that they don't simply concentrate their forces in certain areas.
Okay.
I agree with you that more time should be allowed for the air campaign, but meanwhile, ground preparations must go forth, Kathy.
Okay, Michael Simmons, what about ground troops? Do you think it's necessary?
Well, no. I mean, I cannot see how ground troops would do anything but just magnify the suffering throughout the region. I mean, again, I'd like to just point out that this war is impacting on Macedonia, Albania, could very well engage Turkey, Greece, Bulgaria. That I think that we still need to seek an opportunity to talk with Milosevic, recognizing, as I agree with Dr. Cantor, that he clearly is a war criminal. And I might add that it has been the U.S. that had propped up his international status since the Dayton Accords. And I think that
propped it up. How did they prop it up?
By propped it up, that they gave him the legitimacy after Dayton to understandably implement the Dayton Accords.
But that's a diplomatic move as well. If you recognize someone as being an important player, which they clearly are, whether we like to admit it or not, if you recognize that person, then perhaps you give them enough status that they can actually be recognized and are willing to negotiate some kind of peace deal.
But the reality was, though, is that there were various other voices in Serbia that should have been included in talks. And the fact that Kosovo was not even on the table in Dayton, I think it's just horrendous. That basically, what we're saying is that the Albanian people who coordinated a 8-year nonviolent movement.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut you off there. I beg your pardon, but we've got to go. We've got a break. When we come back, NATO planes light up the skies over the Balkans. We'll talk more about it right after this break.
I should have used Preparation H.
If you had, you wouldn't be suffering now. Preparation H helps stop itch and further irritation with a soothing layer of protection.
I should have used Preparation H.
Stops itch, stops irritation.
Life's an adventure because you're over 50 and still exploring. So take the Centrum made just for you, Centrum Silver, with age-essential nutrients specially adjusted to keep pace with your changing nutritional needs. Centrum Silver, it's a great time to be silver.
A proper gentleman eats one cookie at a time.
But these aren't cookies. They're Newtons.
Oh, we can't be proper all the time, now can we?
A cookie is just a cookie, but Newtons are fruit and cake. And now Fig Newtons are better than ever, because they're moister than ever.
Oh no! Wine on the carpet! You can scrub it for hours and it still won't come out. What you need is All Gone. Now when those accidents happen, all you do is spray. No rubbing, no scrubbing. That awful stain melts away right before your eyes. This revolutionary new breakthrough eliminates even the toughest stain in seconds. Ink on your shirt? Just spray it with All Gone and watch it disappear. Just think of the money you'll save. Even that embarrassing pet stain is no match for All Gone. Just a few quick sprays and it's gone. All gone. We tested 4 stain removers on wine, soy sauce, iodine, and ink. Only All Gone reached deep down into the fibers to remove all the stains. What about lipstick, grease, crayon, soap scum? They're so tough they need another All Gone, specially formulated for oil-based stains. Just spray it on and watch that greasy stain dissolve away. Your scrubbing days are over. You get them both. All Gone for water-based stains and All Gone for oil-based stains, both for only $19.95. But wait, call now and you'll also get this All Gone Gunk and Grime Remover absolutely free. It removes tar, magic marker, even spray paint. Just spray on this All Gone and wipe that mess away. You get everything for only $19.95. But hold on, if you're one of the first 50 callers, we'll send you a $5 rebate. That's all 3 All Gone stain removers for only $14.95. Don't delay, order now.
To order All Gone and your special bonuses, have your credit card ready and call 1-800-398-4646. That's 1-800-398-4646. Or send check or money order to All Gone, 660 Preston Forest, number 374, Dallas, Texas. For faster delivery, call 1-800-398-4646.
Hello, everybody. I'm Kathy Wolf in New York with a conflict in Kosovo update. NATO says its airstrikes have crippled Yugoslavian air defenses and ruined oil refining capability. Better weather allowed NATO warplanes to hit 13 armored vehicles. Slobodan Milosevic says Albania supports Operation Allied Force and has broken off diplomatic ties with that country. Yugoslavia claims Albanian troops have fired shots crossing the border in recent days. The first Apache helicopter is now expected to arrive tomorrow in Albania. 24 in all are being sent over. They are expected to be NATO's most powerful weapon yet against the Yugoslavian tanks. A British newspaper reports NATO is preparing for a possible late May ground troop invasion of Yugoslavia. This morning on Fox News Sunday, Tony Snow asked NATO Secretary General Javier Solana if this report is true.
No, that report is not true. We are going to continue with the same strategy, the strategy of the air campaign. We're going to see it through, and troops will be deployed, as has been agreed already, after a ceasefire is achieved. At this point, the alliance has no plans to go into an invasion, as you put it, to Yugoslavia.
So at this point, you absolutely rule out an invasion in what is called a non-permissive environment.
At this point, yes, the strategy that we are going to maintain is the air campaign to the end and to see through this battle. We're going to, without any doubt, to see it through and to have what to my mind is the most important thing, to have the possibility for all the refugees to return to their homes. We cannot allow the ethnic cleansing politics to succeed in Europe.
Is the Kosovo Liberation Army a legitimate representative of Kosovo Albanians?
Well, it's not the only representation of Kosovo Albanians. As you know, there is a government in exile at this point, and that is the legitimate interlocutors of the international community. Many of those members were the members that were part of the negotiation team when they negotiated in France.
We spoke just a couple of minutes ago with Vuk Draskovic, the Deputy Prime Minister of the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. He says the KLA are terrorists, and if NATO simply will agree to that stipulation, his government will return to the peace table. Interested?
Well, you cannot pay any attention to what Mr. Draskovic says. I mean, he says every day a different thing, and all the points that do come from Belgrade are not sensible positions. They know very well what they have to do. They have to withdraw their troops, they have to stop the killing, they have to they allow for the return of refugees, and they have to allow for international force in Kosovo to guarantee the security of those people.
You can see Fox News Sunday on your local Fox affiliates. Check the local listings for the time and the channel. So we've heard that NATO conducted its heaviest bombardment of Serbia to date last night, and of course those airstrikes are expected to continue. We've been talking all day about whether these bombings are the right course of action and where we go from here. And now we're going to put those questions to our next two guests. Ibrahim Hooper, National Communications Director with the Council on American Islamic Relations, and Peter Juveler. He's a professor of political science at Barnard College and co-director of the Human Rights Center at Columbia University. Let's start right here. Peter, what do you think about the continued airstrikes? Are we going in the right direction? What should we do from here?
Well, the airstrikes are not a direction. They're only part of a direction. And right now, to stop them, I think, would be a grievous mistake. On the other hand, to escalate into a ground war, such as John McCain very eloquently advocates in a very important way, I think would also right now be a mistake. For one thing, we're not ready for it, and for another, I think there's an important alternative. The New York Times talks about our problems as if there was just a national debate. They talk today about a national seminar. I think we have to realize we're acting in Europe in a very unstable situation, and we have to begin to think of moving towards a peace, at least a conference, which would include, beyond NATO, the powers of Europe.
The powers of Europe,
yes,
the entire region.
The region.
How possible is that now? The entire region is inflamed with all of these issues, from the bomb strikes to the refugees. How do you initiate a peace conference in this hot environment?
Exactly, Kathy. You just put it on the line. Just because it's inflamed, we must. Kofi Annan, what's he doing? How is he earning his keep? How is Kofi Annan, the Secretary General, earning his keep? How are our diplomatic leaders, our heads of state, earning their keep?
I don't know what they're doing at this point.
Well, if they want to have a meeting, they can have it. They can bring in Sweden, countries all the way down from Sweden to Greece, beyond NATO itself.
It's almost like you're talking about a world conference.
No, a pan-European conference for peace.
A pan-European conference for peace.
Absolutely.
And you think it could be done, through the United Nations?
Well, with whatever good offices they can afford, or otherwise through the European Union, etc.
Ibrahim Hooper, what are your views on this?
Well, who would sit down for Serbia? Would we have Slobodan Milosevic sit down and, as a legitimate leader, after he has committed crimes against humanity in Croatia, in Bosnia, in Kosovo? I mean, this man is not a legitimate world leader.
So you're saying that's impractical?
I mean,
it's impractical or it's immoral?
It's immoral. I'm sure it can be done physically, but it's an immoral approach to this situation.
If he'll attend, it can be done. If he would even go, it could be done. I mean, he's under siege right now, so it's hard to know if he would even attend something like that.
Well, personally, I wouldn't care whether he'd attend or not. He is just not a person you can negotiate with, and that's been proven in many instances.
Okay, let's talk about the damage that we're doing on the ground with the airstrikes, because as many people have pointed out, if we continue to bomb oil refineries and bridges and communications, radio and television towers, what is going to be left of Yugoslavia before long?
Well, I think it's not so much that we have to go after their infrastructure. We need to start going after their tanks and the individual soldiers on the ground. And to do that, you need to start flying, as they say, low and slow. You need to bring in the attack helicopters. You need to have A-10 Warthogs circling the battlefield, and so these guys can't lift a finger without being blown to smithereens.
Well, they are being blown to smithereens just very systematically over time. Peter, is that a good strategy?
Yeah, I have no problem with Mr. Hooper's strategy on that. I only disagree with his question about Milosevic. Sure, he is, I think, already committed monstrous war crimes. But right now, our primary responsibility and most moral responsibility is to avert a new international war in the Balkans and to help those refugees, the Albanians, as much as possible to have some kind of shelter and eventually to get back in.
Let me throw
But
this
how
out.
are you going to get them back in without invading Kosovo? And from our perspective, there are already ground troops there. They're called Kosovars, and they need to be armed and supported.
That is the most dangerous activity of all. I think that arming them, giving them the tanks and the weapons they need to fight Milosevic sounds on the surface moral. But given the explosive situation there, with Albania itself divided between north more supportive and south less supportive, the 35% of Albanians in Macedonia,
right.
And now that's up to by 80,000.
It's a terribly volatile situation.
It's very volatile, and actually, I think that will bring the whole region to the point of war.
Ibrahim, how do you contain that without...
If it was his wife or daughter being raped, his son, his brother, his father being killed, his family being displaced, I think his opinion would be different.
Isn't that precisely the point? It's so emotional and it's so explosive. How do you keep it from becoming a region-wide conflict and an enormous war?
Yeah, and one of the I fully agree with you, Mr. Hooper. This is terrible. But the perspective cannot still be that of the person whose wife and daughter is raped. That is not on what we're going to ground in international peace.
Although it's very easy to look at it that way.
It's very easy to look at it that way, and I have no doubt, by the way, that these claims on some of my friends' claims that we should stop everything now because a lot of our claims are false about the horrors, I think are wrong, because it's not only NATO that's reporting them. It's also actually human rights organizations, aid organizations who are reporting it, and the endless reports of refugees. So I have no disagreement with Mr. Hooper or anyone else about that. I think the massive war crimes are being committed, but that is only one of the keys.
Let's talk about the refugees and what's being done with them. Many, many thousands more will now come across the borders with Albania and Macedonia. Are we doing the right thing with respect to the refugees? Should we be airlifting them out? They're creating a terrific strain on those countries.
No, they should be kept near to their homes with anticipation of return. If we bring them to some place like Guantanamo or Guam, this is totally inappropriate.
But
we don't want another Palestinian situation where they're dispersed throughout the world and never are able to return to their homes.
But isn't it easier for us to say that we don't live there? I mean, imagine the strain on the folks in Macedonia and Albania now as they watch this flood of refugees come and take over their land. Literally, not that the refugees have any choice, but you can sympathize, can you not? These are not wealthy
that
countries.
means that the funds and the resources that would go into an airlift should go into relief on the ground near their homes.
Okay.
I quite agree with Mr. Hooper on that. Absolutely. Macedonia now is near the bursting point. It really is essential to relocate them, but as close to Albania as possible.
All right. I've got to thank you both and stop it right there. That's it for me in this hour. But Todd Connor is going to be along after this break with more of our Fox News coverage of the conflict in Kosovo. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a good day.
I notice you're sitting a little funny.
Well, my wallet's pretty thick. I carry a lot of credit cards.
Wow, why so many?
Well, this one's for work, this one's for emergencies. It's got a really high limit. This one I got because it's got clout. This one's got a pretty cool hologram. And all the others I was pre-approved for, so I figured, why not?
Well, now you can make that wallet a little thinner and your bank account a little fatter.
Oh, yeah? I'm listening and leaning.
Replace all those cards with the Bank One Platinum Visa card. One card with a low introductory rate of just 3.9%. No annual fee and a credit limit from $5,000 up to $100,000.
That's great. I'm paying around 18% on these cards.
Transfer the balances of those higher rate cards to our low 3.9% introductory rate and you'll really save.
Wow.
After 6 months, it's an affordable 12.99% fixed annual percentage rate. You'll also get a year-end summary of your charges, collision coverage on your rental car, and emergency airline ticket replacement.
That's great.
Call now, and this versatile expandable portfolio, a $74 comparable value, is free with your first purchase or balance transfer.
Let me get this straight. The Bank One Platinum Visa card's got a credit limit up to $100,000. I don't need that card. It's platinum? Talk about clout. It keeps track of all my expenses. It's great for work. And with a low rate, I don't need any of these. Wow, check out the wallet now. Very nice.
And you'll feel even better after you see your monthly statement. At 3.9%, the Bank One Platinum Visa could save you hundreds of dollars in interest.
No annual fee, low rate, better posture. I'm calling Bank One.
Call now to apply for your Bank One Platinum Visa card. Get an introductory 3.9% APR, credit limit up to $100,000, no annual fee, and this versatile portfolio free with your first purchase or balance transfer. Call 1-800-772-2057. That's 1-800-772-2057.
Sunday, the crisis in Kosovo, center stage. How has the media covered events? Too far left, too far right, or have they struck a balance? Covering Kosovo on a special one-hour edition of Fox News Watch. Powerful primetime Sunday, only on the Fox News Channel. Sunday, the situation in Kosovo. Politics, destruction, deception. As it rages on, what aren't we hearing about? Gotta know? Catch Drudge. Powerful primetime Sunday, only on the Fox News Channel.
Hello everyone, I'm Todd Connor. Coming up this hour, the word from a British newspaper says NATO ground troops could storm into Kosovo as early as next month. The President and NATO say their position remains the same for now, but ground troops will be heavily discussed in the coming days. We'll have the latest live from NATO headquarters in Brussels. Plus, 5 refugees lose their lives on a run for the border. 3 children, their mother, and their grandmother die when their car runs over a landmine. We'll have the latest on the refugee crisis that just won't let up. And the military muscle in the Balkans should get a little more air support. 24 Apache attack helicopters are supposed to go to Albania, but may not make it today because of bad weather. We'll have the latest from the Pentagon. That's all coming up next, but first let's get a check on the latest headlines from Carol Iavana at
Travel agents are 1-800-MUST-SEE.
CNN Today with Lou Waters and Natalie Allen. Weekdays on CNN.
Newsstand, CNN's primetime news magazine series, is the place to be. Sunday and Monday, CNN and Time tackles the hard-hitting issues of our age. CNN Newsstand, 10 Eastern, only on CNN.
This is a CNN special presentation.
Airstrikes leave parts of Yugoslavia in flames, but NATO leaders say air power alone is enough to make Belgrade bend. Apache gunships are on their way, but bad weather delays their arrival in Albania. And a flight to freedom ends in tragedy. A weapon of war claims the lives of 5 would-be refugees just meters away from the Albanian border. Welcome to our viewers around the world. I'm Jim Clancy at the CNN Center. This is a special half-hour program on the current status of NATO's strike on Yugoslavia. There is activity on several fronts this hour in the Balkans. Here are the latest developments. Belgrade has broken off diplomatic relations with its southern neighbor, Albania. It says the country is being used as a staging point for aggression against Yugoslavia. NATO says it has found evidence of 43 mass graves in Kosovo. It says there have been numerous reports from refugees that ethnic Albanians are being forced to dig those graves. 5 ethnic Albanian refugees in Kosovo, meanwhile, were killed when their vehicle hit a landmine just a few meters from the Albanian border. Well, to Belgrade now, where it's just after 9 o'clock in the evening. CNN's Alessio Vinci is standing by. He has the latest on a day's events there. Alessio?
Jim, since the early days of the NATO air campaign against Yugoslavia, the alliance has hit fuel refineries across the country. This is an attempt to reduce the mobility of the Yugoslav army and the redeployment of its soldiers, especially in and out of Kosovo. Oil refineries in Belgrade and Novi Sad have been bombed over and over again. According to NATO, Sunday's attack against the Pančevo oil refinery just outside the capital here, Belgrade, delivered the final blow. Reconstruction officials here say that the officials here, they put in $500 million how much the damage so far the oil refinery in Pančevo. The oil refinery is believed to be one of the largest in this country. This was the fourth attack on this particular refinery since the beginning of the bombing campaign. Serbian television also showed pictures of a large, thick cloud rising over the skies of Pančevo. Early reports warned the population the possibility that the cloud could reach Belgrade city center. But later Serbian television said that the strong wind had dissipated the cloud and that there was no reason to evacuate the area. Jim.
Alessio, as you look over the situation, you are in a peculiar position there. It's one of the first times that people have been seeing a war from both sides, perhaps now the world becoming more adjusted to seeing the inside view of what would have been a side they wouldn't have seen before. But today, during the press conference, NATO more or less criticized some of the coverage coming out of Belgrade. Has there been any reaction among government officials or even your fellow correspondents there in Belgrade?
Well, Jim, the Yugoslav authorities here are looking at those NATO briefings probably the same way NATO and Western officials are looking at the coverage of the Serbian television. This is a war that has to be covered from two sides, and the Yugoslav officials are considering as NATO propaganda what's coming out of the briefings out of Brussels and London and the Pentagon, as much as the officials in the West consider what is being put on Yugoslav television as propaganda. So it's a war that has to be covered from two sides, and sometimes the truth is difficult to find out, and the important thing is that to be able to remain in place and to be able to cover a war from both perspectives, Jim.
As we look at the overall situation, you've been there now since the beginning of this campaign, Alessio, giving us inside looks at some of the events. How much of a feeling is there that the real damage from this overall campaign is mounting to a point where it's beginning to hurt individual people, regular people in Yugoslavia?
Well, first of all, the current attack, the repeated attacks on the oil refineries has been putting a harsh problem on the fuel supplies in the capital. There is virtually no gas available for private use as the military is taking whatever is left. So as much as the people commuting is concerned, they're having a really hard time to move around. But in the stores, the food is plentiful, markets are open during the week, so there is no real situation where food is not available for the general population, Jim.
All right. Alessio Vinci, keeping us up to date on events from Belgrade, the Yugoslav capital. Our thanks to him. And we should note as NATO's air campaign intensifies, so do some protests against that campaign. Sunday, about 1,500 people rallied outside the gates of the Aviano Air Base. That's in northern Italy. CNN's Jim Bitterman was there.
Even before the air crews at Aviano started flying off toward their targets, the airbase had become the target for peace protesters. The past 5 weekends, in fact, everyone from anarchists to right-wing separatists have gathered outside the fences surrounding their not-so-quiet neighbor to complain about NATO policy and that of their own government. But political contradictions have made their objections almost incoherent. Some Italian communists are against the bombing, despite the fact that one of their former party members is currently running the Italian government, and he supports NATO. This anti-NATO protest was organized by an Italian separatist leader who wants to create his own country out of part of northern Italy. He was joined by Serbs who are opposed to the Kosovars who want to do exactly the same thing.
Kosovo is Serbian. Kosovo can stay only Serbian.
In the end, the Italian separatist really seems to be against a conflict dictated from afar.
It seems that it's in the hands of a very strong, uncontrollable, unreasoning, and distant power. And that's something that should make everyone think.
While most protests here have been colorful and at times dramatic,
Stop the war! Stop the bombs!
none has had any real significance. The man who handcuffed himself to the base front gate, for instance, even thanked the police officer who cut him loose. And while the authorities take each new demonstration fairly seriously, none has come close to disrupting activities at the airbase. Combat planes have kept going out with the bombs and coming back without them. But while the opposition to NATO's air campaign may be unimportant for now, what it represents may not be. With socialist or left-leaning governments across Europe in power and supporting NATO, much political opposition to the strikes against Yugoslavia has been diffused. But if in the protests here or anywhere else in Europe, supporters of the mainline government parties begin showing up among the usual mixed bag of political malcontent, NATO's Yugoslav strategy could well come up for some re-examination. Jim Bitterman, CNN, Aviano, Italy.
We have seen the protests. We have heard the view from Belgrade. Well, a chorus of NATO leaders now reaffirming their support for airstrikes against Yugoslavia and opposition to sending in ground forces right now. CNN's Richard Roth begins our report from NATO headquarters in Brussels. Richard, the latest there.
Well, the latest, Jim, several issues. Let's talk about mass graves first. For days and weeks, you yourself, who have been here in Brussels, have heard NATO officials here describe reports of various mass graves in Kosovo. Questions asked, where are the men, the ethnic Albanians, from the huge flood of ethnic Albanians that have been forced to the borders of Kosovo to get out of the country? And there have been some satellite photos, not always too precise, showing what NATO believes are evidence of mass graves. Today, at the latest briefing, NATO spokesman said that they have imagery evidence of more than dozens of mass graves, perhaps 40 of them. And Giuseppe Marani, the NATO military spokesman, describes these as a new type of mass graves.
These sites are different from the mass open trench graves that the Serbs created during the Bosnia War. Instead, these sites are neat rows of individual graves pointing to the southeast towards Mecca. Despite being forced to do this gruesome task, the Albanians are clearly trying to bury their victims of Milosevic with respect.
The NATO general, in effect, described this as a chain gang of mass grave digging among the ethnic Albanians. And on another controversial note, the convoy or convoys that may have been struck by NATO planes sometime last week. You may remember that NATO here on Thursday played an audio tape of an F-16 pilot, which they seem to imply was possibly responsible for either striking a civilian vehicle, which would include refugees, or redirecting another NATO wingman to come in and then assault a presumed military convoy, only to indeed strike a civilian convoy. NATO at that time expressed regret, said it was a tragedy, and had played this audio tape. Newspapers, television networks around the world made the point that this pilot was indeed responsible. Saturday evening in Washington at the Pentagon briefing, officials there in Washington saying in no way was this official, this pilot and this tape linked to an attack on civilians. Even today in Washington, a Defense Department spokesman said there is no link between the pilot listed in, who's mentioned in this audio tape, his interview with NATO officials conducted after his mission in the air, is in no way responsible for any attack on civilians. So frustrated journalists here wanted to know more in light of the Pentagon comment. We didn't get much more information except Giuseppe Marani, the NATO military spokesman here in the crosshair, so to speak, before journalists, tried to say why indeed this tape was played anyway.
I brought you that tape to try to clarify what was the process of the pilot. How the pilot was acting and what he was saying and looking at. There are many pilots flying over Kosovo, doing every day that type of actions on different targets. That one was an example. Now, the relationship with that specific pilot, or what was the narrative on that tape, and specific events on the ground, as I said, will be clarified when we'll get the results of what we are doing now.
An obviously frustrated spokesman, Jamie Shea, says he knows nothing more that he can pass on to us. The suspicion is that he indeed is desperate to find out more information, and perhaps NATO authorities higher on up are not too eager to have either more visual evidence of mistakes, attacks on refugees, or want to indeed get this story so straight, especially before the upcoming 50th anniversary NATO summit in Washington. Meanwhile, as the latest briefing was going on for journalists here, there was some more visual proof of what spokesman Shea would like to keep the focus on, the human tragedy coming out of Kosovo. CNN's Bill Hemmer has that report.
NATO insisted it had another successful night of attacks from the air over Yugoslavia, but the picture on the ground is still bleak and possibly getting worse. NATO officials say up to 200,000 more refugees may be waiting to leave Kosovo. In Brussels Sunday, 170 Kosovars arrived by plane. There to welcome them was 53-year-old Ramiz Basha, himself a refugee years ago when his Albanian village was divided between Albania and Yugoslavia.
Le mot d'enfer.
To talk about hell, camps, misery, and crime, I have weighed my words carefully, he says, and I think they're not enough to describe what is happening. Ramiz brought his 11-year-old granddaughter, Talbane. She brought small stuffed animals for the refugee children. When I was little, I gave these to my cousin, she says, and now my cousin gave them to me for the refugees. The refugees were shuffled quickly to a waiting bus and then taken for a routine medical checkup. Ramiz Basha flashed a victory sign from a distant balcony. Belgium will take in 1,200 of these people. But that's a tiny fraction of those who still remain in tent camps. NATO says airstrikes are crippling Yugoslavia's military, but some analysts think NATO must use ground troops to win the battle over Kosovo, a suggestion that NATO countries say is not on the table. The Belgian defense minister says if that question were to come up, NATO would discuss it. But this topic is not among the decision on our agenda. Privately, one NATO official says ground troops are not discussed formally, but they are talked about in the hallways of NATO. He says President Milosevic has been one step ahead, and to catch up, something has to change. Bill Hemmer, CNN, NATO headquarters, Brussels.
And one other note from today's NATO briefing, officials say there's evidence that they have that paramilitary supporters of the leader known as Arkan, who is an indicted war crime suspect in The Hague, have been seen and in activities in Kosovo near the town of Peć. They've been seen in hotels. No further information, though, on their whereabouts or whether Arkan was indeed sighted there. Richard Roth, CNN, reporting live from NATO headquarters in Brussels.
Richard, thanks for the wrap-up there on events coming out of Brussels. And coming up after our break, the refugee exodus from Kosovo continuing at an alarming rate. And we'll have a look inside the camps as people struggle to go on with their lives.
Don't let seasonal allergies keep your child away from a beautiful day. Claritin syrup helps put nature back in its place. One dose gives kids 24 hours of relief from seasonal allergy symptoms. Claritin syrup is the only once-a-day non-drowsy antihistamine safe for children as young as 6, with a low occurrence of side effects, such as nervousness, wheezing, fatigue, and hyperactivity. Take clear control. Talk to your child's doctor about Claritin syrup.
Feeling down? Overwhelmed? Now, to help you lift your spirits and look on the bright side naturally, there's Quanterra Emotional Balance. I used to think all St. John's words were alike, but they're not. The extract in Quanterra was clinically proven effective by doctors, and research suggests it regulates neurotransmitters affecting emotional wellness. New Quanterra Emotional Balance. There is light at the end of the tunnel. If it's not clinically proven, it's not Quanterra.
For years, the Photo Center at Walgreens has been known for quality photo processing. Now, with the Kodak Picture Maker, you can create do-it-yourself prints in a number of different sizes in less than 5 minutes. You can even get a set of prints on floppy disk or the internet, so you can send your photos online. Create photo greeting cards today, and they're ready the next day. Walgreens Photo Center, where America takes its pictures.
This is CNN.
deployment of 24 U.S. Apache attack helicopters now in progress. It aims to bolster NATO's air power all across the Balkans, but military sources say plans to have the helicopters in place by Sunday have hit a snag. It's the weather again. CNN's Carl Rochelle joins us with the latest from the Pentagon. Carl?
Jim, it's interesting that it is a weather problem, because yesterday the weather problem was that it had rained so much over at Tirana, where they'll be based, that they were afraid the Apaches would sink down in the mud, and so they had to delay it until they could put in some matting, some aluminum matting on the ground to have the helicopters sit on so they wouldn't sink in the mud. Today, it is thunderstorms, hail, lightning, really bad weather in that area. And since these helicopters will have to fly a considerable distance over water to get there, it just is not safe. And the sources tell me that they were not going to make that run today. It's dark over there now, and they certainly won't make it tonight. So the earliest they could get in there is sometime tomorrow. Now, the sources also say when they get there, it probably will not be long before they are deployed. It is a specialty mission. What they will be doing is going after specific targets, long-range targets, over in Kosovo. Now, we have some animation, if we can show you that, exactly how that mission would work. That's an MLRS, multiple launch rocket system. It fires a missile that goes out and would quell or put down the ground defenses. These are multiple rockets that it hits down on the ground. The Apache would then fly out in its mission, suppressing ground fire along the way, and then it would take out its target. A Hellfire missile fired to the tank, exactly the role that this was designed for. And as it comes back in, this multiple launch rocket system using ATACMS for an Army tactical attack missile would clear the way, take care of that ground fire that they believe could be out there, take care of those shoulder-mounted missiles. And they say because of that, they expected to see some use pretty soon, Jim.
Carl, what is the biggest issue now in the United States in regards to this operation?
I would think for all the people, not just the soldiers, but citizens too, it's this question about calling up the reservists. The Pentagon is looking to authorize up to 33,000. Now, what they're doing right now is trying to match the needs with the numbers and decide where they will come from. We believe that about 70% of the reservists that will be called up will be either Air National Guard or the Air Reserve, the Air Force Reserve. They are the people who man those tankers that come out, the air-to-air refueling tankers. Many of them airline pilots, and the crews are weekend warriors, if you will. They would be called up. There are certain Army specialties that exist only in the reserves because of the restructured modern Army. So to deploy a sizable Army unit, they have to call up that particular specialty out of the reserves to make it a full unit. For instance, the Civil Affairs Division that would interface with the local authorities in any deployment that the Army made. Now, those numbers are not finished. The Pentagon says they are still working on them. They expect to get them over to the White House sometime this week, and that's when they'll get the real number set up that they need, and that's when those calls will start going out to the reserves. And of course, the reason, Jim, that it's so important here at home is because if you're a reservist, you may be called. If you're not a reservist and someone you work with is a reservist, if they're called, you may have to shoulder part of their load, and of course, families get disrupted when reservists are called up and shipped out. So it is a serious question, and it's something that there is a lot of concern about, Jim.
All right, Carl Rochelle, giving us the latest there from the Pentagon. Ethnic Albanians continue to pour out of Kosovo during all of this into Albania and Macedonia, the rate becoming alarming once again. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees reports 24,000 people left Kosovo in just the past 24 hours. But things aren't much better when they get across the international borders into refugee camps where food supplies are running low and resources are stretched to the limit. CNN's Richard Blystone reports from the Stinkova camp in Macedonia.
Nature toys with the refugees of Stenkovac. So does fate in all its forms. A constant battle to cope with the uncontrollable. A battle shared with the humanitarian agencies, which are scarcely more in command of events. Ask them how many are here now, and the answers range from 20 to 30,000. One thing's sure, they are running out of space.
I got again now a call from somebody who said we've got 500 tents or so available. Where do you want to put them? Now you look around in this space, in this place. You know, where we're going to put 500 more tents. I mean, we could, but you know, you take away all recreational space, all things like that. People need to be moving around. But you know, you drive around here. I just drove through a fist fight, you know, near one of these community or one of these distribution points, and a bunch of guys just beating each other up. And I'm sure this is happening all over the place. You know, so the social problems are deteriorating here by the hour.
Plans have been drawn up to expand Stankovic and double its capacity to 60,000, but no Macedonian government approval yet. Meanwhile, the relief operation is at the mercy of the fluctuating tide of refugees. 6,000 to 7,000 arrived in Macedonia Saturday, but the airlift to refuges in other countries took out only a couple of hundred. As long as the air campaign continues without resolution, aid workers here can only react as best they can to whatever happens. The initiative remains on the other side of the border. Richard Blystone, CNN, Stankovic Camp, Macedonia.
And just ahead in our special report, we'll take you to Europe. We'll be speaking with the foreign minister of the Netherlands about the Dutch role in the NATO strike against Yugoslavia and public support there.
Getting those urban cowboys on horses was trying enough. And you throw in some serious chili, we're talking major heartburn. And we were way out there, and this cowboy, he pulls this Zantac 75 out of his saddlebag. I said, what are you, a Zantac salesman? He said, no, I'm a doctor.
The medicine in Zantac 75 is the #1 doctor-prescribed acid reducer. It relieves even your toughest heartburn, controlling acid for up to 12 hours.
Hats off to you, Doc.
Zantac 75 for tough heartburn. Doctors know.
FungiCure eliminates finger and toe fungus. FungiCure's brush targets fungus around nails with powerful antifungal medicine. Just ask our satisfied customers. FungiCure, the finger and toe fungi specialist.
Life. Sometimes it's just a matter of perspective. So try Movana, the advanced St. John's wort supplement rich in hyperforin to help stay positive about life. Safe, natural Movana helps keep life in perspective.
As part of NATO, the Dutch have been strong supporters of the alliance's campaign against Yugoslavia. And joining us now on the phone to discuss the reaction in the Netherlands is the Dutch Foreign Minister, Josias van Aartsen. Thank you for being with us so late on a Sunday evening.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
The overall look, the Dutch have been receiving refugees now. What is the reaction, the feeling of participation among the community there, as well as on the part of the military?
Well, on the part of the community, it's fantastic. The Dutch public gave more than $20 million in a national television appeal for the refugees. Dutch government gave more than $50 million for the immediate refugee relief, so that's excellent, I think. And on the military side, Dutch contribution to the NATO strikes against Yugoslavia is in fact as strong as the British is. Dutch F-16s are hitting Yugoslav air defenses, and Dutch land forces are in Macedonia, Albania, and of course with the S4 in Bosnia. And Dutch naval units are active in the Adriatic.
There has been a lot of talk about NATO unity, but in Brussels we heard that perhaps the unity within NATO, the 19 countries, stronger today than it was in the initial days of this air operation. Is that your view, and why?
Yes, I think so. And our NATO meeting of the foreign ministers in the beginning of last week showed that with much resolve, the idea that we should persevere, that we should hold the unity together. And I think NATO and the 19 NATO countries are really believers in the air campaign.
Now, you say believers in the air campaign. Why is it, do you think, that the public supported the operation? What is their view of what NATO is fighting for here? Do you think they really understand it?
Yes, I think so. Anyway, a recent poll in the Netherlands showed that 78% of the Netherlands population is in favor of the military action in Yugoslavia. But I think the interesting, the vital point is that we are not at war with the Serbian people, but we want the irresponsible leadership in Belgrade to be made understand that totalitarianism in Europe is over. It's a regime, in fact, that abuses human rights, that doesn't give the right place to the Kosovars in Kosovo, and like, in fact, the dictator 60 years ago in Europe, it broke all the agreements which were made with them. Think of the Holbrooke Agreement of October last year.
All right, looking at those agreements, looking at what has been laid on the table recently by the European Union, do you still see the door of diplomacy swung open for Mr. Milosevic in Belgrade? Could there be interaction?
Oh, yes, I think we should intensify the air campaign, but at the same time, our diplomatic efforts should be renewed and should be intensified as well. And I think the Albright-Ivanov meeting of the beginning of last week was a very important one, and I hope that the nomination of Mr. Chernomyrdin by President Yeltsin will help as well to get right